Like my shirt?
Yeah, I remember that kind of stuff. So here we are, the upside down crew again.
Yes.
So this is Sifu Slim, and I'm here with Sifu Mike, and we are happy to bring you part 2 or part 3, depending on how we edit this video, on head injuries. And so I had a thought yesterday as I came into this martial arts center. We've talked over the years about, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, a famous song from the 70s, I believe. And you know, you don't mind a little blood once in a while and sweat and tears, because that's all part of the growth process in martial arts and in life. But you don't want to leave, you know, along with your blood, sweat, and tears, you don't want to leave your brain and your future on the mat or on the street surface or on the sidewalk. So how do you avoid doing that? First of all, what do you think about that little thing I came up with? And what do
Blood,
you...
Sweat, and Tears? I'm trying to figure out who
The group. They were called the Blood, Sweat, and Tears is the name of the group.
What was the name of the group? What do they sing? I don't
Well, that's the name of... Yeah, I don't know what they sing. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
But what do you think about, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears you've seen being in the martial arts for more than 30 years, and then not leaving your brain and your future along with the blood, sweat, and tears in the martial arts center, or on the street fighting, or on the gridiron in football, or skiing, wherever you are?
Well, you know, it's kind of like what we were talking about yesterday. You know, damage is going to be done. It's kind of funny watching the people at the gym. They're very overly protective of their body, meaning like when they feel the slightest sense of pain, they stop. And I said, if you stop at every single one of your pain, you just have to identify: are you injured? Are you about to get injured? Are you feeling a little sore?
What's the severity?
Yeah, exactly. You know,
what gym are we talking about?
Huh?
What gym are we talking about?
This Valhalla. Yeah, and it pretty much goes for anybody. They're here. They're hanging out. They want to do this. They want to be part of this, but they have to be willing to do the sacrifices. But the sacrifice doesn't have to be your brain. Okay, you don't have to be doing all this.
And your future. Yeah. Like if you can't walk, you keep tearing your knee apart, and you keep breaking your ankle. You don't want to be able to. You want to be able to walk. You need this later in life just to walk around your gym. I mean, you have a long way to go to get from one side to the other, right? How would you like to be hobbling around the gym?
Yeah, well, the gym is close to 50 yards long. So, yeah, we do sprints from the weight room all the way out to the cage. But
have you ever had a time where you couldn't walk very well from martial arts?
Yeah, no, there was a time, and the main thing was identifying where the injury was coming from. A lot of times when my knees were so stiff and they wouldn't move, only to find out what it was is the flexibility through my hip. Okay, my elbows, anybody who's been doing jiu-jitsu, submission fighting, anything like that, your elbows start to act up and they're inflamed and you feel like you can't straighten it out and you don't want any attacks. And what I found out is it's actually all the muscles in the back area that are catching the muscles in order to be able to compensate for the overextension. As soon as I cleared that up, my arm was straight. There were times where I had nerve damage in my hand, and we would punch. I was fine with punching, but if somebody would touch the back of my hand, my entire nervous system would fire up. So there's a lot of times where I couldn't do that. But you know what it was is over the years learning to identify where these injuries, you know, the injuries, there weren't really injuries. It was my body trying to compensate. Funnily enough, I've gotten hurt more in yoga. Okay, and people when I tell them this, they're like, "You got hurt in yoga?" I go, "Yeah, because my muscles have basically compensated to adapt to all the damage that I've done to my body. That as I was doing the yoga, as things loosened up, other parts of my body went, oh, there's more flexibility here, and they would grab the muscle. Okay, I've had my neck lock up. I've had my my psoas muscle.
Does that mean you stop yoga, or you just learn to do rehabilitation exercise and then continue to do yoga?
I stopped yoga altogether. I just started doing dynamic stretching. So I'm just like I just use
activating stretching and dynamic stretching.
Yeah.
So not leaving your brain and your future. Talk a little bit about your future, and how do you talk to a kid who's 8, 10, 12, 15, or 35 on a comeback about their future, and not letting their ego or whatever the drive is to go in there and keep competing. If you're an amateur or a pro, it might be for money and survival. Maybe a pro went through a divorce or lost a lot of their assets over some period of time. Maybe they're out of the fight game for a while, like Chuck Liddell recently came back to fight Tito Ortiz. Apparently there is a money issue with Liddell. And so Well, how do you talk to these people?
I don't think Chuck fought for the money. He genuinely does not like Tito, and any opportunity to get back into the ring.
He calls him meathead.
Yeah. There was, I was friends with a lot of Chuck's training partners right now, and the stories that they would tell, like how Tito would turn down the fight and everything, it just made him mad. So I was never really first party privileged on that one, but I heard there was a lot of like anger when it came to that. Anyway, back to your point. It's actually easy for me now to talk to these kids. These kids coming up and they want to fight, and me trying to tell them to train smart. One, I'm 50 years old now. I retired 15 years ago at the age of 35. These guys,
From fighting.
Yeah, a lot of these guys.
You still do challenges with some students you used to come here. You don't
not
do
really.
that
I'm done with that too.
Okay. So sometime in the last 10 years you told those guys, not me anymore.
Last 3 years, I'm just like, you know what, guys, I'm over. I'm done.
Wish you well.
I wish you well. I've had a few people on the internet, and I say, look, 10 years ago, I would have been right there.
For a challenge match.
Yeah, absolutely, I would have been right there. But I'm done. You win. You win the argument. By all means, you will kick my butt. I have absolutely nothing.
Your only way to fight right now is for survival of yourself or your family.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, like I said,
you'll do a little training.
Last thing, the last video is 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I decided, like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and spar with the guys.
Did you warm up first?
Not much. No. Well, it's just like a determination. Just make sure that I'm.
How about your neck? You don't stretch your neck out a little before you.
Well, you say warm up. Basically, is my heart rate up and my body loose enough to be able to get up there? That I did, yes. Yeah. I'm basically building myself up over the last hour and saying, okay, now I'm going to get into it, because I knew the sparring class was going to go and I knew I was going to do it, and then I do a mental check-in. Am I really going to do this day without making any promises to the guys? And I'm like, yep, I'll grab my gloves. Let's go ahead and do this. So. But
so how do you talk to these people about making good decisions for now and for 40, 50, 60 years from now?
That was the point I was trying to make. I can honestly tell them I was the 22-year-old. I was a 23-year-old. I showed them videos of my fights. I showed them videos of my sparring partners, and I said, this was my sparring partner. We used to just go toe to toe and beat the crap out of each other, just every time. This was like the late 90s when I did that. But my early kickboxing career, we never really went hard. But there was I just had this one guy. His name was Lawson Baker. Okay, and him and I just used to, like, okay, let's spar. We go at it. But that was like maybe once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah,
had a recovery time.
Yeah, lots of recovery time. And we like to hit each other. And he had a tough head, and I had a tough head, and such. But it's like I've already been there. I've already found out all the ways maybe you shouldn't train. Okay, and one of the ways I finally figured out is that it was all about endurance. If you can
outlast them.
Yeah, if you can outlast them, if you can get if you can be physically healthier than the other person when you get into the ring, the better chance you are at winning. Simple.
So you're having this conversation. What ratio over the last 30 years, when you're talking to the young, endorphin-filled, testosterone, competitive kid who wants to please himself or someone else and go out and attack the world, how much success ratio have you had about having them follow a disciplined plan that has some sustainability and some wellness and some sanity in it? What's your striking ratio on talking to these kids and having them really get it?
I have multi-level. It really just depends on the individual. Okay, there's some guys in there who can't wait to get it in there, and I say, well, let's take our first match and see how you do. Yeah. I mean, if the old adage, you don't lose if you learn something from the lesson. So it's like it's not a subject of whether we win or lose. We want to win, but you'll never know how it is until you actually get in there. Either that, or you're going to constantly be on the floor training yourself to prepare, and you're not going to take a match unless you can absolutely win. That's not a champion's mindset. At least that, in my opinion, that's not the way it is. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, I would have a guy who I need to put the brakes on. I had one gentleman who always got into his head. He would fight, and he had a fighter's mentality. He's willing to attack, but when it came to competition, he would always fall apart. So I told him, until he could get that part of his brain around what to do correctly, he can't fight for us. I'm not saying he can't fight, because he's an adult. He was more than welcome to go somewhere else and fight, but you can't fight underneath us.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's, he's doing his own thing.
And then, yeah, I guess he didn't like that and left. I'm like, well, I'm here to protect you. Like I said, the first match is one thing, but I'm not setting everybody up here to lose. It's like the idea is to find the keys to be able to win.